it's Hope at Crafty Hope and welcome. I am going to work on the week 2 of Seek, Gather, Create for summer 2022. The prompts were just announced and I have come in to cool off from the heat outside. So I'm going to work on this for a little bit. So the prompts for, well, let me tell you, Seek, Gather, Create is a challenge mostly done on Instagram, but I like to record a video for y'all. And it comes from Lisa, Jana, Tina, Laura, and Melanie. I will have links to their Instagrams below, and if they've got YouTubes that I can find, I'll have that as well, just like last week. I'll put a link up here to what I did last week because I really like that. So this week, the 5 prompts are blooming flowers, tissue paper, something teal, stripes, and fabric. So, and instead of doing a tag like I did last week, I decided to work in, this is my Rusted Roots journal from, I think it's on the Southern Gals Designs Creative Academy from Michelle of Mickelnay. So, I've only done 1 page in here, so I thought, I'd plan that. So, for blooming flowers, I pulled out a couple things. I've got some actual dried hydrangea flowers here, and I've got this stamp that I've carved that I like, that I may use along with the tissue paper. So I kind of want to, I'm thinking about maybe stamping onto some tissue paper. I have this plain white, but I don't know, if I feel like it, I've got a whole envelope of other tissue papers I may go grab. And then it's something teal. You can see here I've got some teal embroidery floss. I thought, yep, we'll do that. Stripes, I think I'm going to use these bits of paper to make some stripes in my collage maybe. That sounds interesting, so we'll see. And then fabric. I have my bucket of fabric here that I may, I don't know, pull something in. Because there's lots to choose from in this big bucket. So, enough chatty chat. Let me get started. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and get into my journal, and I decided just to go ahead and use the first page in there. It's kind of I don't think it's watercolor, but it's a heavier mixed media paper that's got some rust dye on it. And yeah, I'm going to cover up most of that rust dye, which does kill me a little, but I'm keeping that little bit of rust dye you can see over on the left. So like I said, I decided to do the stripes in this by tearing down some different papers. Let's see, that first one I put down it's a time card book paper, and then you can see this is a handwritten letter that I'm gonna glue down. I'm just using my Oohoo glue stick, which does pretty good this time. Yeah, so I'm gonna get that down. Messing with my camera there. Then this is some dictionary paper that's got, I guess, a jelly print or just some kind of paint on it. Looks like it could be like where I rolled off my brayer from a jelly print. I'm not real sure. Yeah. This was possibly some under paper. It's just some craft paper. Yeah, I'm making stripes, y'all. I don't know. I didn't look up the definition of stripes to see if it needed to be like some kind of consistent bit or not. And I looked at that piece of scrapbook paper for a second thinking, oh, well, that could be blooming flowers too. But I put it aside and decided it is not long enough. And I kept moving. So then there's I think that's some other jelly printed book paper. And then I'm going to go back and just bring in some of these other papers I had and repeat it to finish out these stripes. I think maybe I'm just doing one more big piece of paper. Now, in the end, the stripes don't really come through on the page because they're not regular stripes. I guess it's not like the regular pattern of stripes, but I made stripes with my collage. So yeah, if you know me, if you've seen my other videos, I tend to like to start things with a bit of collage. Gives me some texture on my page, lets me get over that I guess that fear of the white page. Of course, that page wasn't white. It had that beautiful rust on it. But yeah, it kind of just gets over that hump. So I've got that down, and I thought for a minute, I thought I was going to maybe do some scribbles, but I decided no, to go ahead and grab that off-white tissue paper. And then I'm grabbing what is that? I think it's the peacock one. What's it called? the peacock feathers, duh. Distress oxide peacock feathers and my hand carved flower stamp. And so that peacock feathers to me is something teal, because since I knew I had to bring something teal into this, I decided to go ahead and do that and start bringing that in. So I stamped stamped that stamp in the peacock feathers on my tissue paper to kind of bring that into the collage, I suppose. And because I know that the distress oxides will move when you add pretty much any kind of wet media to them, I am going to bring in some what do you call it, fluid matte gel, and put that straight onto my page there. And I'm going to flip the stamp upside down so that where I stamped is facing into the matte gel and not up, so that anything else I bring in doesn't move that flower shape around any. So this was, it kind of met a couple of my criteria here. I've got teal, I've got tissue paper, and I've got flowers all in this one thing. But I'll bring some of those into this a little bit more. So this was just how I was kind of incorporating tissue paper for the most part, was this one part. So yeah. So I put these two sections down, and yeah, I'm flattening it out. I've got the papers peeling a little, and you can see the flowers, but they're not like standing out. I just wanted that kind of background collaginess to it. So I'm going to do one more little bitty section of the stamp, because I felt like I needed something down in that lower kind of right area. So, and by this point, I guess my brush was getting some of that teal on it, because it was coming out from underneath the page. And I think somewhere right in here where I squeeze it out, yeah, I get some on some of the fabric that's sticking out the side of my journal. Not a big deal there. I'm going to brush it off. But I like teal. It's one of my favorite colors. I'm okay with that. And once that's there, I decided to go ahead and do one of my favorite things, which is, grab my instant coffee. This is some dried up instant coffee in a little yogurt cup. I'm reconstituting it with a little bit of water. And I'm going to take a wet paintbrush and just splatter it around on the page. Since I do have that little bit of craft paper and the vintage papers and all of that, I thought some brown on here would be really nice. So, and I always like, I really just love my coffee. So I'm splattering it pretty well around on the page, and then I started to put my brush in the coffee up, and I decided, no, I wanted to paint with the coffee a little bit. So I'm going to do that. I'm just going to spread some of the coffee around in a couple places. It made me feel better. It makes that craft paper, I think, feel a little more integrated in the page as well. So I'll dry this real quick. And then I decided I needed some black marks on here. So I have got some black India ink there and a fairly thin paintbrush, and I am going to put just a ton of marks around on this page, just because I wanted something a little bit darker on here, and that felt like the darkest thing I could put. So yeah, and I go a little crazy with it. I put these marks all over the page. I'm seriously, I'm going to do 3 fairly big areas, I think, and then a couple of smaller areas. And yeah, I really do kind of fill up this page with these marks, but it is just part of the background to me. It was just something I needed on here. It makes the page feel a little more complete, I think, as far as the background. Now, and I did think of other marks I could make, maybe some X's or tally marks or like a big swirl, but no. So looking at the page, something hit me that I had these kind of blue teal die cut butterflies from the Dollar Tree, and that they would be really neat, or one of them would be really neat on this page. So I pulled one out, and then now I'm bringing in my fabric. So I pulled out this little piece of, I think it's a linen tablecloth, and I'm tearing it down just a bit bigger than my butterfly, because I knew I wanted to put a couple more things on that little scrap of fabric, just layer a couple of things on here. I had a little trouble tearing it down, that little bitty small size, but I finally get it. And I thought, oh, I can bring in some of those dried hydrangeas on here too. So I'm putting a couple on that scrap fabric to kind of look at with the butterfly, and I decided, yep, I like that. So I'm going to grab one more to look at on that fabric. And I expect that these dried flowers are probably going to crack and crinkle and fall apart within my journal, especially since it's right inside that front cover. But that's okay. It'll be a kind of a wabi sabi thing, and I still have the butterfly on there, so it's all good. So I'm just using some matte gel to stick down my dried flowers, and then I'll use the same thing to stick my butterfly down. I make a mistake with my butterfly here in a second, but it's okay. It's something that I don't really mind. I don't think it's the first thing you notice on the page, but I look at my butterfly and I realize that when it got die cut, part of the wing there, it didn't get cut out of the way. So I thought, okay, well, I'll just pop it out. And when I do that, it tears it a little like awkwardly, like in a way it shouldn't be torn. But it's okay. It really, once I put it on top of the flowers and all of that, you really kind of don't notice it. So I went with it. I'm pretty sure that that pack of die cuts from the Dollar Tree had more of that type of butterfly in there, but it doesn't matter. And I haven't seen those die cuts at the Dollar Tree in a while. These were last year or the year before. So, but you might be able to find them online. So I get it glued down, and I knew I wanted a phrase on there. Oh wait, before I wanted the phrase, that butterfly has some gold on it, and so I wanted to bring some gold, and I thought about using my Liquitex gold acrylic ink, but I remembered in my scrap box I have some gold leaf that I received from Michelnay, actually, for I think it was the last Yumi 3 of 2021, maybe. I'll put a link to that up in the upper right, but I still had a little bit of the gold leaf yet left, and I knew it was handy instead of pulling out my own gold leaf, and was a way to get something else out of my scrap box. So I'm just using my Who glue stick to make a couple sticky spots on my page. Some of that gold leaf stuck to my finger. And yeah, so I was just picking some random spots that I felt like would be shown once I put that butterfly down, and yeah, so I'm just putting some gold leaf around on my page, and I'm letting it kind of dry a little bit, because the next thing I'm going to do is grab a paintbrush. I got something that was a little fluffy, not too coarse, to just kind of get the excess off. And I think that one over there, you could see the cut edge of the gold leaf, and I didn't like that, so I used my finger to kind of get that sharp edge off of there. So once I get that, I'm like, okay, this is looking really good, y'all. I really love that I added this gold leaf here. It's one of my favorite things on this page. You saw my little happy fingers. Now I'm going to bring out my small talk stickers, and I pull out one of the first things I see is not all who wander are lost, and that is yeah, I love that phrase. It's from Tolkien. And so I stuck it down and got out that teal embroidery floss and put it on a needle and tied a knot. And I'm going to make some French knots here on this. Now I know this little stack is already a little busy with the flowers and the butterfly and the phrase, but I don't care. This is also another teal thing I could bring into it, and I just kind of felt like I wanted to sew on this little scrap of fabric. Now, because this fabric is kind of flimsy and all of that, I have a little bit of a hard time with it because it's just this tiny scrap, and yeah, I was trying to sew around that phrase, and yeah, so I'm struggling a little bit here, but I'm gonna put in about 5, I think, of the French knots. If you don't know how to make a French knot here, I'll see if we can talk our way. You come up through your fabric like so. You're going to wrap your thread a couple times, 2 to how many ever is, but the more times you wrap, the bigger your knot is, and then you go back in through your fabric or your paper in a different spot than where you came up, just slightly over from it, so that the knot kind of stays in place. And then you make sure you hold your thread as you pull through, and then you've got this pretty little knot. So, and I love them. They're a fun little accent. And so, like I said, I'm putting about 5 here just to bring that teal in, to give a little texture to this. And then to tie this off, I am going to go ahead and cut my thread and then separate my threads of that embroidery floss about half and half, and then just tie a couple of knots down to the fabric like that. Because I know I'm going to put some matte gel medium on the back of this to kind of hold that in place, so yeah, but I wanted a good little knot on there. So now I'm bringing in that matte gel, and I'm just going to spread it onto the back of both my fabric and my little Tim Holtz Small Talk sticker and be done with this, y'all. This was such a great, I don't know, this list of the 5 things felt so me when I read them that, yeah, I'm absolutely ecstatic with what I came up with here. So I hope you liked it too. If you did, give me a thumbs up. Make sure to subscribe and head over to the hosts' Instagrams and YouTubes and see what they made for this challenge. I'm anxious to see what they did too. All right, y'all. Thanks so much for coming by and watching. I will see y'all later. Bye.